Boker Tov Yom Tov Zarim Tovim and Lila Tov. Shlama Alayakun Chudutha. All these beautiful words to just say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you're at. May joy be filled in your life, and may you be one with the infinite creator as we are all one. I'm very excited to be here today. I'm not sure where Steve is yet. Oh, looks like he just is joining us. Is perfect. So I'm going to swing him in on here. I was getting a little bit worried there, sir. Just saying.
It's okay.
And I'm going to get rid of our background here because you've got like a Christmas tree and a bunny that's trying to point up your nose. I don't think that's probably good. So let me take it off. I think it's cute, but it's not going to work for what we got going on. So let me just get rid of the overlay. That's hilarious.
Bunny ears. I got bunny ears up my nose.
You did. So let me come on, overlay. Don't do any of that. I don't want you to do any of that. And I certainly don't want. Well, you got a spaceship on you. That's not going to work either. So we're just going to take it off and put Restream up there. That's all right. We'll make it work.
There we go.
I'm not too worried.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm checking about all these different backgrounds. Maybe
that'll work.
There we go. Now, okay. Now if I could just get rid of the overlay, but you know what? I'm really not going to worry about it because who cares? Nobody came in to see the overlay or the background.
They didn't.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
They did not.
So I'm not seeing anybody joining us on Facebook. It doesn't mean that they're not here. I just can't see any of the comments. I'm only seeing stuff from YouTube. So, hey guys, I'm not sure why the Facebook isn't connected, but if you want to come and join in the conversation, please swing over and watch us on YouTube because I believe Steve's channel is paired as well. So if you want us to see your comments, just jump off and jump back over on YouTube. Anyway, Shalom Alaykum Chadutha. Steve, how's your morning?
Well, I think we're fixing to talk about a bunch of it, but I had some amazing time in meditation, and then post meditation, I was given some data to integrate, and we are. Fourth density is upon us, is all I can tell you. Is that it is being revealed at a rate. I was talking to Jim Hobbs earlier. And
you and I both were, because I just got off the phone with him as well.
Yeah, I made him get off the phone with me so he could talk to you at 9. So, but
hilarious.
I hate to even call it rate of change, but it's the only thing in English that I can come up with. But
sure,
the tetragrammaton is in the form of DNA is becoming the pentagrammaton.
Exactly.
Literally, it's live streaming. It's so hard to find words. That's what I was talking to Jim about. It's like, which is great. I'm eager to a life without words because words suck.
Yeah, they do. They're very limiting. Very, very limiting.
Well, and what the stuff I have been sending you the last couple of days is literally the science of glory to glory. Yeah. I mean, so we're still in 2 Corinthians 3.
Yes. Yes.
But you know, the egoic entropy of religion looks at one degree of being taken from one degree of glory to the next as some sort of religious process we get by reading a book and following the laws.
Right.
But fortunately for us, well, fortunately for everybody. So I've been saying that there's those who are watching today, because if you're here, you're one of us. Whether you know it or not, you are. Those of us that are on the leading edge of creation. And we came here for that purpose.
We did.
And we now know that our DNA is in a higher crystalline structure than some because of that. But everybody's just going to get there. But there has to be a squad of people, just like in the first century, that are showing the way.
Yes.
So that as it's happening, the gravity of consciousness won't be so great that we can't make it. That's the only way I can put it. Hey, Brandon.
There's a lot. There's a lot. You know, I'm thinking about just the stuff that you have shared within the last 2 days. And, you know, the conversation I was having with Jim this morning is truly a lot of this is ineffable. I mean, it's you take on the information and then you experience it. And once you experience it and it shifts, we literally do not have the vernacular to describe what is going on through that experiential knowledge. It's just, it's not able to be conveyed. It's like the difficulty that we take the word miltha in Aramaic to try to express that miltha is so much more than the way Greek has put forward the word logos. You know, you hear people use that all the time. You'll hear the Greek word logos. I mean, I know I have. And that just doesn't convey. It just loses it in a translation. The awesomeness of what miltha really is. Because if I were to try to explain it, it's coding. It's like it's the material coding of everything that exists, everything that is, everything that will ever be existing simultaneously. And miltha, mel, also is a word in Hebrew that means to be filled up. And then when you have the tav aleph added to that, it's like, okay, so what are we being filled with? Well, water, right? The water, because then the water, so thinking crystalline structure in water with the thing that you said, and all of that. So the water has light through the lamed. We are being filled up with light in the water. So it's, what is it doing? It's getting the chaos out. So then when it comes to the tav aleph on the end of it, it means it's the covenant of oneness, or the covenant of completion, or the essence of that which isn't seen but is felt, but now becomes absolute. It's what Jim and I were talking about truth is. Truth doesn't need to be defended. It just is. And whether or not you see it as truth doesn't make it not so. It just means that you haven't seen it yet. And so when we get stuck in that place of trying to defend our truths as yours and mine, what is the measure of standardment? Are we talking about perceptions of perceived truth? Are we talking about absolute? Because miltha is absolute.
Well, it's absolutely unlimited potential.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, so every perception within consciousness is limited by nature. So I was talking to Jim about this yesterday, that a great way to look at it, there's a meme floating around of this, is if you take a cylinder, you know, something that's like the tube that you put money in at the drive-through at the bank, you know, and you shine a light from the back of the cylinder onto a wall, there's going to be a shadow on the wall that's a circle. That's the diameter of that cylinder from that perspective.
When you're talking about, yeah.
And then, but if you move the light to the side and shine it from the side of the cylinder onto the other wall, the shadow is a rectangle. Both are perspectives of the very same object. And that's what's happening right now in the transition from a third dimensional perspective because density and dimension is two different things. Density is a vibrational rate of consciousness, or what we've learned is that consciousness is pixelized,
Right.
and we're looking at a change in the shape of the pixels, and the dimensional perspective of that is changing as well. So we've got a double whammy happening right now, which is why so many of us are here, because this doesn't happen very often.
No.
And so we're experiencing vibrationally a shift in the shape of the pixelization of consciousness, and we're also experiencing a change of that consciousness all at one time. So the Aquarian man is pouring out a big bucket of water, and the light of the cosmos is which is what we are. So our avatar is stardust, and the Christ within us is the light of the cosmos, plasma.
Right.
It's all changing. And if you follow me on Facebook, you can look at an article I just posted, and I also shared with Carrie, that our DNA is a very low vibrational form of a crystalline structure, and it is being changed. Oh my! It is being changed into a much higher vibratory crystalline structure by the light source.
Exactly.
So like the comment we just had about Christmas being about that, and it's not just Christmas Day, it's the 3 days in the tomb,
Right.
and how much of religion in the past has been a perceptual attempt to explain all of this the best way that they could.
Right. Well, it's interesting. I have very low bandwidth this morning. That's the trouble with this meeting earlier, but hopefully people are hearing. I heard somebody said it was really choppy, so I was hoping just taking my camera off would help. But
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, the Christ Mass was actually like prophecy, like a prophetic declaration year after year. So when we would celebrate it, in actuality, we were prophetically declaring it, that it would happen one day over us. And so you think about how creation works now, with all the work from Joe Dispenza and Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton, and especially with the quantum field. It's like zeroing on Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. That every year at this time, until we got into the commercialism, consumerism aspect of it, we were coming together as family. We were celebrating. We were focusing on this energetic exchange of Christ, and then we were putting strong emotion to it. So how much of us in our own creative energy, especially since we became more aware of what Christ was, that was this presence, it was this anointing that was going to be living in and through us, because it really is the ego out of the way, and we're having this beautiful energy of consciousness creator being in us. How much of it is that we've really been creating, but we were in some ways unaware of that was this season was all about? It's just a question.
Yeah, and wrestle is a great word for it.
You bet.
One of the great lessons from all the channeled work, but especially from the raw material,
yeah,
is to know that the last, whether you want to believe it's 75,000 years or not, but whatever the quote unquote time period is of third density, that the sole purpose of that was the wrestle.
Yes.
And that the ability to take part in that was envied by most of the universe. So, you know, so the fact that we all got to participate in the wrestle, we all got to make the choice of service to others.
Yes.
Now we're all getting the great experience of our DNA, because I won't even call it physical because it's not.
No.
Of our DNA being upgraded so that we can experience a new level of glory. You know, the prior experiences, because we've all experienced ascending this ladder called glory through our lifetimes. All of us have. We can all look back and see it. We can even look back if you want to do some past life regression. If you're not a scaredy cat, you'll see lots of it.
Right.
And it was, so what we look at in scripture, you know, one revelation for me personally that allowed an immense amount of growth was a revelation that came through a lot of catalyst, a lot of pressure. You know what I lived through here in
Oh, yes.
my home.
Yes.
But through that, I received a great revelation that all religion is man's vain attempt at oneness through the idea of separation.
Right.
And that's what's dissolving. So the idea of separation is third density. So those of us who have been on the leading edge of creation through all of this mess, on the front line of this, what I now call the shit show, we I think are the first that are actually experiencing the transition, and it can be overwhelming. You'll hear Brandon and Alec and lots of others have days where it's very heavy.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's very dense. And the valley of the shadow of death is a very dense place.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling with words again. Joy is the only word I think that we have at this point to describe my heart with the current experience.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, and even looking at the word chadutha in Aramaic, it literally it comes from and is married with the word echad or yachid from Hebrew that means one, unified, united. And then that het, which once meant separation, is the esoteric letter for life. And you find that through the door, the dalet, going inside and then connecting to your heart. And then, of course, every time you see the Tav Aleph, it's like the connection has been now completed in the fullness of the all, the absolute of everything. And it's the end of judgment. And so in having the end of judgment, of course, you're going to have joy. It's like the manifestation just is a natural outpouring that you experience on the inside, and it changes everything around you. It's such freedom. It's such freedom when you get to that place. But there is a lot of work to get there, you know, and I was thinking about the struggle that you were talking about. One of the most beautiful words that I know to describe that is the word good. It's tov. It's tov. And that's spelled tet, vav, bet. And the tet is a representation of the wrestle. It's like a wrestle with a snake in the mud in the basket. And you need to be drawn out of the basket, right? But you're wrestling in it with the vav the Vav Bet, it's saying that you're going to wrestle with that connection of trying to connect on the inside to your heart. But the ultimate goal is to build family. It is to build your temple on the inside, but it's also to build family in the process of it. So every time one of us connects fully to our heart through the wrestle and then overcoming, which then connects us to the word Israel or Yasher El, or,
Well, you just opened up a can of worms.
well, perfect. I don't mind that.
Because
I don't mind that so much.
yeah, because what happens is the what the order out of chaos actually is flipping from entropy to neg entropy.
Exactly.
And the first toroid to flip when that happens is your heart.
Yes.
You
That's why that
cannot.
Vav, that's why that Vav is so important on the inside of that word. It has to be the first one. It has to be the first.
And I've had a lot of people get all upset with me lately because I can't explain that to you.
You mean the
I mean, I
how?
can. Well, no, I can show. I can point the way there, and if you seek it, and you're not afraid, cat of the way is the valley of the shadow of death. That's the way. And if you're seeking it sincerely, you will find it. And when you find it, you'll experience it. And you'll not be able to explain it to anybody else either. Because when
Well,
it flips.
yeah, yeah, it does. And I'll tell you what, when it makes that flip, everything changes. Literally everything changes. And this is why the heart is considered the Shemesh candle. Shemesh is a minister of the sun. And man, connecting some of the stuff that you've sent me recently with Dan's work and connecting it to the sun and how what's
Mm-hmm.
going on with the sun is the same thing as the way our heart functions. It's
Huge.
not actually meant as a pump for blood, although it does that. That's not why it was created. So when you flip that toroid field in the opposite direction where you begin generating energy yourself, so you're not in entropy, you're not taking energy from the world, you're actually now producing it. What happens is that you just lit the center candle,
You
which is
did.
called the Shemesh, which means it's a Hebrew word that means servant, minister, prophet, teacher, priest, but it's also the same exact word for the sun. So as soon as you flip that polarity and you begin generating the sun within your heart, it will light up the rest of the chakras because that's what
Good
it's meant to
morning.
do. And you see
Good
that.
morning, Dory Grace. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing beautiful people that are joining us. So thank you guys. I'm
Yeah.
so glad you're here. And I'm seeing new people too.
Yeah.
So hold on just I'm gonna
Good.
so we don't I'm just recognizing
That's
some new
fine.
people for us.
Some new
So
people. Yeah.
when we light that Shemesh candle, our heart, if you look at the pattern of the menorah, which is super important, and you know that because it's the word nura, light in Aramaic, which is deeply profound, and it has a
It
mem in
is.
front of it. So your waters of your body, your waters have light. It has to happen through igniting the heart chakra first in order for the full illumination of the menorah, that candle, that standing, seven-pronged menorah that's in the holy place to illuminate the rest of your body. And then that's what allows you to be able to enter into the Holy of Holies. But that has to be
And
fully lit.
and since we had that comment, Spirit just wanted me to address it. Um, because the final thing he said was this is confusing and he just wants to
Please.
please
Yahuwah.
Yahoo
Yeah.
or Yeshua or Ishu or whatever you want to call And what we're talking about, the flip that we're talking about is in the Bible. The flip that we're talking about is going from calling this person Lord, which is a 15th century English word for slave owner. It's really Maria, divine light, but calling
Yes.
him so they changed it from a feminine to a masculine word, which is interesting. You go from the desire to please the Lord to calling him friend. That's the flip. You go from that is entropy. That's Romans 7 guy of this constant. So once you flip, the flip from Romans 7 guy to Romans 8 guy to knowing the law and not being able to keep it and being frustrated and miserable all the time, just wanting to serve the Lord and please the Lord. But once the flip happens from entropy to neg entropy, you walk in the Spirit, you become like Jesus said in the Bible, you become like one, like the wind, that you don't know where they came from or where they're going. There seems to be no pattern anymore. And see, that's the thing about entropy. But the bad part about entropy, Romans 7 guy, serving a Lord, is that the second law of thermodynamics tells you that entropy increases with linear time. The good news is once you flip glory, it increases in space-time, which is completely different.
Right.
And I don't want to confuse the crap out of people, but it's just way better.
Well,
trust me.
It is, but it's important that we're bringing these concepts forward because this has been part of the confusion. This has literally been part of the confusion because we were instructed to keep science and spirituality separate, or rather science was saying keep spirituality separate because they are not one and the same when they truly are. And so I'm really glad to see that this wall of separation, using that specifically, that this wall of separation is one of those walls that is coming down. Because when you can begin to explain spirituality through science, then it becomes fact, right? Before then, it was a bunch of conjecture, although those of us that had divine experiential knowledge would beg to differ on that. Like, no, we know this to be true. We just can't prove it to you. Well, now it's being provable. So at this point, it takes a lot of the fear out of it because now science is explaining that which we already know within as absolute.
And Casey Gonzalez La Natsero?
It's measurable. It's measurable.
Yeah. But I want to respond to KC, our new person. And yes, follow Carrie's channel, follow my channel. But I just want to make this clear because if you're new, you might not have heard me say this, but and I'm sure Carrie will say the same thing, is we're not going to tell you what to see. We'll point you in the direction to look, but don't be afraid. No fear of whatever it is you see. But my admonition to you is don't become attached to anything that's a concept, but be connected to everything.
That's
and
good.
Just be still in that place.
Well, and again, be still and know. Guess what that word is? Yep. Dot.
Yep.
It's dot. Yes. It's experiential, intimate knowledge that one has to experience for themselves. It's like it's the door in time, or rather the door out of time. It's that place that when you sit with something through the Spirit. See, the trouble is that, and I was sharing this with Jim, and I'm bringing this forward, and we might pick up a couple words and look in 2 Corinthians again, although we are talking about things that have been lost in translation because the sacred languages very much prove all of this stuff. But the trouble is that we were programmed to believe that our heart was deceitfully wicked. So when we tell people to say, sit and go within, And they've been programmed to believe, because the English scripture said that your heart is deceitfully wicked, even though that is not what it said. What it said in the original language was your heart is melancholy. There's a big difference between deceitfully wicked and being melancholy. That when people are programmed to believe that they can't trust their heart, and you tell them to go within, to seek within their heart, they will have been indoctrinated to believe that they can be deceived by their very own heart.
Yeah.
And so, that's why trying to prove some of these scriptures, to say, please take a look at this. Please see what these words are sharing with you, because your heart innately knows the truth. As I remember the first time I read that scripture a long time ago, and I did not agree with it. There was something on the inside of me said, I do not believe that. My heart isn't deceitfully wicked. And obviously it wasn't until like 25 years later that I began to see the truth of it, because I started looking within the sacred languages to see it for myself.
And I got to address Christopher here, because this is a pretty common theme, is that, because everybody's all worried about AI, and actually, Christopher, religion in Latin is regelio, and it means to bind, like it's like your ligament or tendon. It can hold back, but it can also hold two good things together, like your bone and your muscle. But whatever you make a boogeyman is just going to increase in your life. And there's nothing outside of God. So for you to create something that's not God, that's against you, and it's just a boogeyman, because
I agree.
There's nothing outside of Allah. God is all.
That's right. Is
all
everything.
there is.
That's right. Well,
Yeah.
and
consciousness is your mirror.
Yeah. And so in that, so Christopher, in reference to the Matrix, totally get it. We've entered into a system of duality to experience contrast. That's what duality is. It's experiencing contrast, good, evil, black, white. I don't need to explain that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even go to politics with Republican and Democrat, heaven forbid. But, you take a look at these things, and it's experiencing separation, because that's what duality does. It separates. But it's also about comparisons. So when we get locked into that and we're judging comparisons, anything that's good or bad, then we're actually locked into the matrix game, locked in a matrix mindset, when everything is about unifying. That's why that word, when we're talking about the chadutha, joy is in experiencing life, finding life that you were once separated from. Because in this universe, until you flip your nature, like we were just talking about, you are currently dead, because you're in entropy. And this is why our bodies die. Because until you flip that polarity in all the chakra systems, every single energy center is eating itself. And technically it's in chaos. So negentropy is now self-producing, which then you restore life by having all of your energy centers doing that. So when we look at the matrix, the way it's set, if you stay within duality, you are actually in entropy, because it's not self-sustaining. It never is meant to be. That's why things will be will rise up and then come crashing down, because they can't sustain themselves, because it's based in duality. As soon as we start building from the place of unity, as soon as we start building from the place where it's self-sustaining, and that's through us. That's what we're supposed to be learning as responsible creators in the matrix. We are in a place where we are in the most beautiful school ever. So we are experiencing duality. We're experiencing what it is like to have entropy. We're experiencing how to build. Okay, that didn't work, so it's going to come crashing down. Let's try it again to find that which is sustainable. And the only way to sustain that is unification. The only way to do that is to unify yourself within, so that it can be manifested. Then that way, everything that we build, because when you get unification, you are not going to be building a structure that is harmful to the environment or to people, because you will realize you're one with everything.
Right.
It changes. It literally changes everything.
So I got to leave in about 15 minutes, but
okay.
So I want to kind of not land the plane, but kind of really focus in on this, because it's really in essence what we're talking about is that. So the experience of duality, the experience of building boogeymen, the experience of the knowledge of good and evil is that the experience of building a boogeyman and then building a group of people who have the same boogeyman and the other group of people who think you're the boogeyman. It's all part of duality. But that experience is run by your subconscious mind and your programming from within duality or the matrix. So just saying that the matrix or anything else, that there's a boogeyman and the boogeyman's holding me back, is you are confessing that your expression of consciousness currently is being run by your subconscious mind. You're also confessing the polarity of your toroid. It's not
Oh man,
good,
that's
it's
so
not
good.
bad.
That's right. That's right.
It's not good, it's not bad. Everybody has came here for this experience. What I want to tell you is, if you're there and you're here listening to me now, there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And that you need to, I say you need to, I will point you in the direction of self-inquiry. If you'll send me a message at thearamaic@gmail.com. I need to get Carrie this link so she can just start posting it. I'll give you a 20-minute meditation where you will, even if you're not flipped, if your toroid's not flipped, you can still experience separation from time, space, and self, which is entropy. That's entropy. That's what that is. Self, space, and time is entropy. You can experience neg entropy through meditation. It's a gift. It's called grace.
I love that.
In just one brief moment of neg entropy through meditation, which provides a higher form of a higher brain state, a higher form of consciousness, briefly while you're there, will show you that you are, yes, Brandon, the Muji meditation. It will show you that you're on the right track. You're on the narrow way. Because our Father knew that without it, just like we would never make the choice of service to self or service to others outside of third density or outside of this, we would never make that choice. If we were just walking around in the garden naked, eating from any tree we wanted to, having a grand life, we would never make that choice. So
That's right.
as just like third density was a gift to our evolution spiritually, we've been given a gift of meditation in higher states of consciousness. This is the baptism of water on the feminine side. We've been given these gifts of higher states of consciousness within duality so that we can find the narrow way, the enana, I am, the I within the I. We can find that even while we're in duality, even while we're in entropy. And this is the hard part that Carrie or myself or Brandon or anybody else or Alec or Lou, Daryl, doesn't matter. All we can do is point you
That's right.
to the
That's
way
right.
in the
That's right.
direction of enana.
That's
And
right.
what's going on right now in the cosmos and here on Mama, combined with your sincere seeking, is all you need. You don't need to really, do you need to understand the language? We'll probably get there eventually. Well, might as well. I opened it up. So here's what happens when you flip the heart toroid, and when you're in a state of meditation, you'll be looking inside of a tornado, and strangely enough, you will see shapes, plasma energy, and shapes that are the Hebrew alphabet.
Yes. I know, right? I know, right? Well, and so this makes sense. So So by the way, what he just shared, what Steve just shared is the work that I have been like tripping out over with Dan Winters. That I mean, the science has proven it. This man is a genius. He's an absolute genius. When we
As
get
well as
done,
Nassim Harriman.
yes, and Nassim, yeah, you know, I want to make sure that we're bringing both these guys in, but specifically Dan Winters and what he's been sharing with that vortex that opens up and the letters shape and form. This is why the language is calling out to some people, and this is why sometimes, like at night when I'm sleeping, now I get it because of that vortex that opens up here. That the letters would come to me and I would see words and letters. That science in what he's sharing through physics is proving why that would happen, why that phenomena would happen to me. Because the language, when you bring it in, it increases your aura, it expands your aura, it feeds the
Yes.
plasma. And here's the beauty of it, it feeds it through symmetry. Symmetry is the key, masculine and feminine. So I've been looking at the Hebrew and I've been looking at the Aramaic. It brings symmetry into unity to see it from both lenses. Yes, and so it creates this vortex in this toroidal field that opens up a greater understanding, a greater illumination, which then expands the aura. So if I'm taking it in through my head and it gets into my heart, the plasma from my heart toroid is then beginning to expand, which then does what? As it expands, it begins to ignite and illuminate the other chakras. So the science behind it, because, you know, just to let you guys know, I'm going to put a link in this video. If you're not open-minded, if you're very religiously bound, please do not watch it unless the spirit says so. Because if you are limiting yourself in a very strong box, especially within like different forms of Christianity or even Hebrew roots, you will reject it. Your ego will not accept it at all. You need to be able to open your heart, ask spirit to help you ascertain these things, or it's going to cause some cognitive dissonance. But this video in its title is The Art of Resurrection. And it's how to make your plasma, your aura, intelligent. Aura is an Aramaic name, by the way. Aura is the light of one. It's or, Aleph Avresh, of one. Aleph. It's
And you
aura.
are the new Ra,
Dura.
according to Jesus, which is the refracted light of one.
In this, in your the seed of life, your flesh suit is a refracted source of that light. So I love
Right.
that. I ties
So
so much in.
right. So the prism that is your Heikla body can only refract the light of the one if the toroid is spinning inside out.
That's right.
If
Otherwise,
the
it's pulling
toroid
it
is
in.
spinning outside in, all you can do is be Romans 7 guy, everybody. I'm assuming everybody's read Romans 7, but if your toroid is spinning outside in, your subconscious mind's running the show, and all you'll ever do is use your 5 physical senses to bring the outside in. And I don't care if that's a church building, a mosque, a book, it doesn't matter. Like Jesus said, they're going to put my physical body up on a stick, just like Moses did the serpent in the desert, and draw all men to it. Yes, we all are going to experience that. But until the toroid flips, that's all you can do. Now, the great part about the Muji meditation, like Brandon just said, get behind me, Satan. The Muji meditation, or any meditation that allows you to be free of self, space, and time, which allows you to observe the subconscious mind and all of its toys that you lay down. Once you can do that, only from that perspective of a higher state of consciousness, looking at the egoic you outside the door, looking at all the things the egoic mind believed and built, everything. That is the only place from which you can say, like Jesus did in the wilderness, depart from me. That's the significance of doing that. Because until you can do that, you will continue to build your house on shifting sand.
That's right.
Entropy.
That's right.
And
That's
and
right.
and it sounds harsh to say this, but if you're doing any kind of external worship, it doesn't matter. If you're doing any external worship, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's entropy. You're taking part in a system that is external programming, feeding the ego, the spiritual ego most of the time, but it's still an ego, and feeding entropy. And like I said, entropy only gets bigger over linear time. You're trapped, you're a prisoner. That's why Jesus told the Pharisees, you travel great distances for one convert, you make them twice the prisoner they were before. It's what he's talking about. You've only increased their entropy. Yeah, it looks better. The outside of their cup is cleaner. That's awesome. But you've done nothing for the inside of their cup. Their
Yeah.
hypla body, their
Yeah.
toroid.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm starting to be preachy.
No, I get
Sorry.
it. It's
I
okay.
get fired up.
I get
See
passionate
that,
about it too.
that vein right there? That's my preacher vein.
Yes. Yes, I get it. So I did want to say this, and we have this question here, but I did want to say something for an explanation of people to try to comprehend what you're saying in what
Ooh.
we see in duality. What we see in duality with people who are in negative polarity. So negative polarity is entropy. Okay. Negative polarity is entropy. Positive polarity is negentropy, which negentropy is organization on the inside out of chaos. It is that self producing light. When you are in negative polarity, aka service to self, and you do not make your own light, this is why we get things in the narratives in duality where aka blood sacrifice systems are done. Life, chaya, is in the blood. So there are things that are going on that we have seen in the system of duality for those who are wanting to continue to be power structures in force control that are in such a state of entropy that they have to take the light from those who are generating it.
And I got to go, so I'm going to leave you with this, KC. I'm sure Carrie will put, well, how can we disseminate, because I've got it in my Google Drive, the Dan Winter book. I mean, I have no problem sharing that with anybody who wants to see the Dan Winter book's called The Alphabet of the Heart, and you can learn a lot of that. And are you going to post the link to the video, the science of?
Yeah, the art of resurrection. Yeah.
Yeah, the art of resurrection. So Carrie's going to post a link to that video. That's a great place to start.
It's very lofty, though. It's got a lot of science terms. I'm just letting you know.
I'm just going to leave. I'm going to leave everybody to this: the importance of flipping the toroid. Your DNA, like I said earlier, is a low vibration crystalline structure. It's low vibration because of your lifetime in entropy. Okay. Once the toroid is flipped, and then you're able to accept the new plasma energy coming from Dad, and it can go through you. That's what Tuveyun means. It can go through you. That's blessed. Your DNA can then become a higher vibrational crystalline structure.
Exactly.
I.e., light body. So it's no, this is it's not going to be the flip of a switch. I know a lot of people want to wake up one day and have a light body. It's not how it's going to go down. But that's the importance of this. And this, what we're talking about right now, is resurrection.
It is. And this is why that scripture in Revelation 21:21 was so profound when I saw it, that it literally was written in 2,000 years ago that our structure, our temple, was going to change into crystalline. I mean, it literally was written in Aramaic but it was translated into the word glass instead, but it means crystalline. So
Right.
anyway, very interesting to connect all these dots here today. I know that we didn't go into scriptures. I'll stay on a little bit longer because I know that you need
Yeah,
to jet.
I
But
do.
we can look into some of this more stuff into 2 Corinthians 3.
But
We laid a really good foundation today.
let me leave you with this. Masculine
Please.
in the physical, the masculine always is birthed by feminine. This is what Apostle Paul told Timothy not to let the woman teach in the church because she was teaching that that the feminine was first. And Paul says, but we all know Adam came first, which proved he didn't have a clue what Mary was teaching. So the feminine, so the Heikla body flips first. That's what everybody's got to get. Till you do the work on the inside, the thing you're wanting on the outside will never, ever happen.
That's right.
And I'm just going to leave you
That's
with that.
perfect.
I love everybody. I got to take my boy to physical therapy. Thanks to everybody for being here. I love you all. Peace
Thank you,
out.
Steve. I will see you next week. So that's a lot that what Steve brought in for us today, some of the things that he has been shooting my way over the last couple of days that have been so incredible for me to see the science side behind it. Again, physics, Nassim Haramim is going to be releasing something on February 22nd of next year regarding physics. I didn't watch the video that Steve sent it on me because I only have so much time to watch things in the day. So anyway, let's see. I see some questions here. Kaya, part of a channel message years ago, light language is how it's coming through to me. Yes, that's exactly it. So Kaya is the word for life, to live, to be alive. And the aleph is on the suffix side of that word. So to be alive, to be living, is to have oreta, the light of creation of all that is. So this would be infinite potentiality of the one infinite creator that we are all a fractal source from, is that life is coming through that. That is what gives us life. And this is why flipping our nature. So when you hear, I posted something the other day on Facebook about some of these words, and it was talking about flipping the 6 to the 9. This is something that my husband and I have been talking about for a very long time. As a carbon-based life form, we are marked as 666, 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons. That's actually a carbon molecule. So we are already marked with 666 when we enter into this flesh suit. So we're a triune being. So we have body, soul, and mind. We're there, body, soul, and mind. Soul would be what you would consider as spirit. So body, spirit, soul, and mind. We are taking that 6 nature of the body, soul, and 9, which is man, because the number 6 means man. It also can mean sin. And so if we were taking a look at everything that we just said, sin being separation would be entropy. Anything that keeps us separated from the light would be sin. So anything that is keeping you into that inward spin from the outside in is taking light, which is keeping you separated from the light because you haven't self-generated, is keeping you in a 6 position, body, soul, and mind. So when we begin to flip these things from the center place where spirit, where soul is, and we flip it into a 9, 9 is a number that means completion and or judgment. Judgment doesn't have to be good or bad. It just is. It's like a final result, a finality of something, a completion of something. And so when we flip our 6, our man, our sin nature, then it begins to start generating its energy. So we deal with the soul, with the spirit first, and then it is automatically beginning to stretch out into our mind where ego dwells, and then it changes the crystalline into a crystalline structure of body. So this is why it is a very lengthy process, because of the illusion of time. The vibrational frequency has slowed down. You know, you might connect this to a day is 1,000 years, right? So a day is 1,000 years outside of this linear illusion of time. So everything is, I talk about it like walking through molasses, very cold molasses. It takes a lot to move things when it's in the cold state until it begins to start warming up, and then it moves a little bit faster. But in the initial stages of this system of bringing light online within our body, it takes a while for it, because of the linear illusion of time, to make everything else happen. So when we flip our nature from 666, we take it to 999. It's very interesting to see that both of those numbers, when you do it through reduction math, so 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 18, 1 plus 8 equals 9. 666, the number of man, the number of the third density separation, is still perfect. Is still, because we had to experience this density of separation. Again, contrast, what does it feel like to be separated versus what does it feel like to be unified? This was a perfect design for us to experience being separated from the oreta, to experience entropy. What does that feel like? So you always are wondering why we are searching for love in all the wrong places. We're looking for it externally. We get that high. We get that high when we meet somebody for the first time. The hormones are helping us to be able to look at this or feel something that we would consider love. This is that heart being in that melancholy state. It is looking for something to feel it because it's in an entropy state. So it's always searching for something externally to feed that light, that oreta, that was removed. This is Chava. This is the mother of all living that was removed from Adam, from mankind, when he was put in a tardame, a deep sleep. This is when we begin to look for Chaya, which is actually a form of Kava. I don't know if you guys know. So Kava is the word for Eve. It has the same root as Chaya. One has the power, Yod. The other one has the connection. So the connection to the mother of all living, Chaya, was removed out of Adam. He was put into a deep sleep. So which actually meant, because he wasn't generating his own energy source, Adam was technically born dead. He didn't have his own energy source. And I'm talking mankind here. This isn't a literal story of one man and one woman. This is an analogy of what has happened to us. So when that was brought out, life had to be brought back into Adam. Adam had to learn how to generate its own energy, which is negentropy. Entropy is chaos. Negentropy is order. One takes light, the other one gives light. And so I'm hoping that helps kind of explain a little bit. And that's why the word tov or toviun, which Steve had mentioned before about blessed is he, toviun. This is when that energy light comes in and is then beginning in the toroidal fields to be given without. Blessed is he, blessed is he. And that's from the root tov that I was sharing with you in the beginning. It is all good, but you're going to have to wrestle with it until you can connect to the source within, to your power source within. Otherwise, anything that is external that you're trying to connect to on that is going to collapse. It is not sustainable. This is why relationships tend to fall if they're not based on unconditional love. What is unconditional love? Unconditional love, in scientific terms, is the explanation of negentropy. Unconditional as love is when you are self-generating. When you are self-generating light, aka love, you have unconditional love because you are not seeking it outwardly from people through their conditions, or even through your conditions. I will love you as long as, and as long as you meet those conditions, I will be feeding myself. We really are totally a narcissistic community. And I know that many of us have experienced suffering at the hands of narcissists. But when you are in entropy, when you are seeking it from outside source, that's exactly who you are. You're trying to get your feed. You're trying to get your supply externally. I'm hoping this is connecting to you guys in some of these regards. So when we study the letters, because the letters are contained within light and they create the vortex of how the heart spin is created, the Merkaba spin, which is very connected to the heart, how the sun works, in his cold fusion, we are in the place of separation from Oreta. We are in the separation from the one infinite creator that brings forth Kaya, that brings forth life, who was prior to the beginning that brought forth life. So our whole search here, is to find that. And when you find that, that is the Christ anointing. That is Mashiach. That is Mashiach. So Steve was talking about the Muji. I haven't listened to that because, but I'm going to. I would like to experience that. But when you begin to touch through that divine experiential knowledge, that intimacy place, you touch it and you can feel that there is something much more different than the external sources that we try to tap into. And when you touch it before you become it, and you taste and see how good it is, because remember, you're going to have to wrestle until you connect it fully on the inside, you are going to be searching for it. The ego searches for it because the ego likes the hit, likes the chemical response within the body. So this is why you will see people chasing conference after conference. They're constantly looking for Oreta, but they're doing it because they haven't started producing their own energy. And it leaves you wanting more. So when you go to a Bible study, and let's say that they're doing it from the English scriptures, because the English scriptures do not have the vibrational frequency of Oreta in them. It's a dead language. You go and you touch a little bit. You might get a revelation that just goes poof and it opens up your heart. But because it's not real, because it doesn't have the vibrational frequency through cymatics like the original languages do, it will fade. Because that entropy, that language is a language of entropy. The alpha language does not help you generate your own energy system. It keeps you in entropy. Can you get illuminated? Yes, there's many people that I have already known that have done a lot of inside work that see a fuller illuminated version of the English language, of the English scriptures. And that is true, because as soon as you start generating your own power source, your consciousness expands, because that's what it is. Oreta expands, and therefore you see differently. This is called when you heard Steve say Enana, the I within the I. This is a very specific word that literally the word Ana, like I am I, is Aleph Nun Aleph. But when you have a Nana in it, they have written the Ayin, the letter Ayin in it. And the letter Ayin means to see, the I within the I. Does that make sense? So, and because it was added in the center of the word, it means the heart that sees. And this is where we're making the shift, because once you switch that polarity, you become negentropy and you begin generating your own light source. You begin seeing from your eye. Does that make sense? So there's a lot to be said here. And I'm seeing you guys are like super active in the chat room. It's very hard for me to catch everything that you're saying, because I see, yeah, I do see that, Molek. I do know that there are other languages out there. The only ones that I'm familiar with, because of what I've seen, is the Hebrew, Aramaic, and the Sanskrit. I know there's other ones out there, but those are the only ones I'm familiar with. And because I'm familiar with them, because of the experience that I've had, those are the only ones I'm going to mention. I don't want to be talking about something that I haven't experienced myself, because that's really the Greco-Roman mindset. The Greco-Roman mindset says, just because I read something, I know it. But the Hebrew Aramaic mindset is, I'm not going to speak about something until I've experienced it. So there's a big difference there. That's where it becomes da'at, experiential knowledge. You know that it is, not because it's something that you read, which is somebody else's creation of their mind that they're wanting you to believe. It is something that you know, intimately know. I'm not going to keep you guys here any longer today, but I know that there's a lot that Steve and I want to get into, and we want to bring in more verses. Today, I didn't bring in any of the verses because we needed to talk about some of this spiritual mechanics in physics that are uniting us together in a way that is provable, tangible, and measurable. So the things that Steve and I were discussing, Dan Winters has gone through extensive research on all this and has proven it out. Nassim Haramein is another one who has extensively dug into these things, and these new quantum physics that have been coming in with the unified field theory is connecting everything together into that oreta that we've been talking about. The oneness, the one energy that connects all of us together. And it is explaining the science of consciousness. So when we begin seeing these things, that our aura can become intelligent, and that the sacred languages produce the symmetry, that this is really the art of resurrection. We are talking about something that is deeply profound for us to really dive into, and to why someone may want to truly start studying the sacred languages. Can you achieve this without studying the sacred languages? Of course you can. But it's going to take a lot of time and energy through meditation to continue to do this, to seek within, to grow your light when the outside world and materialism is trying to choke it out continually. We have distraction upon distraction upon distraction. And so this is why you will get people like the Buddhists and the monks that go and separate themselves completely away from society, get the full illumination. And what we're talking about with this art of resurrection and this information is what you would hear the rainbow of the rainbow body. This is some of the stuff that the Qumran community was teaching. They understood that as well, and connecting as the Merkaba. So any rate, which Hebrew Aramaic do you use? Hebrew Aramaic K. That is, so maybe you can be a little bit more specific. I'm surprised actually, K, that I saw that, because generally I look for caps when people ask questions. So if you could be a little bit more specific with me with the Hebrew and Aramaic, that would be great. I will let you know that I take a look at many different forms. I look at the Chaldean. If you guys don't know what Chaldean is, it's the ancient form Aramaic that was prior to Hebrew. Aramaic, the Chaldean language, was widely accepted. It is a form of Hebrew, and then Hebrew came out of that. And then we also have the Aramaic. And so when I take a look at all of this, these vibrational secret frequencies have purposely come in because we are expanding as our human is expanding in its consciousness level. So languages, different things have been added, have been changed as a progression in the amount of light that has come in. So some of these concepts that couldn't be. So if you even go back further into like the paleo or the pictograph forms, there was only so much information that can be contained within those symbols to bring this information forward based upon the level of consciousness at the time when that language was presented. But over time, things have been expanded and growing. And that's why the merging of the Hebrew and the Aramaic back into one, because they divided into two, now they're coming back into one. I will say this as well. What I have noticed on my studying the language, depending on where you are at in your maturation level and your spiritual growth, is going to determine what you see. Everything that I have seen so far in my process of studying over the last 10 years has changed quite a bit of me as who I am, in delivering myself from multiple personalities, multiple egos that were trying to run the show, that were a protective measure, and has given me the ability to see the quantum effect, but also the spiral nature found within the languages. And so regardless of where you are at, of what level of what you are seeing and what language, if you're looking at only Chaldean, only Hebrew, only Aramaic, all three of those forms have masculine and feminine within it. All three of those forms will get you what you need. But I see the merging of everything coming together in this place in unification, where it's not being separated out. It is all coming forward right now. So I'm hoping that helps. Do I have a Jewish background? Absolutely not. I do not. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know of any ancestry in this lifetime. But if we start talking about lifetimes prior to this in different incarnations, yes, I did. Just not in this one. And who taught me Hebrew? The Spirit did. My husband and I entered into this where the Spirit was directing us to study the Hebrew language. That's how we started. We got involved in a Hebrew roots movement. And it was really the language that was kind of drawing us in there. But again, we wanted to experience, the Spirit was saying that we needed to experience comparisons of what it was like in coming from Christianity and going in through a Hebraic root movement, Messianic Judaism, that kind of aspect, to see the comparisons in order to neutralize both of them into a place of mysticism. So we did a lot of research on our own. We were taught by the Spirit. We were led to go places by the Spirit to gather. And all of this blossomed because we went within and we focused highly. Everything that we teach, we prove letter by letter. We show it based upon the way the Hebraic and the Aramaic mindset was set, with the mother and the father teaching through the aspect of spiritual maturation, becoming a daughter or son of the commandments, and moving into the place of intimacy of becoming married. So this is why we felt that we wanted to bring these things forward, because I don't want to just share with you something that you may look at as conjecture. For me, it has been all about going to each word, letter by letter, word by word, and showing these things to you as not as a means of conjecture, because we have enough people that are out there speaking things that they haven't proven. And I'm not saying that you need to, because again, the Spirit is going to let you know what is and what is not. But it was really important to me, being someone that was a heavy word person, that spent years and years and years in the English narrative. I mean, my whole life studying the word and getting into a place where I could go into the Hebrew and Aramaic to see really what was being penned to us. And so for me, it was a natural jump over into that as the Spirit began unveiling things to me in my place of remembering, in why I'm able to see the way I see today, and why the healing made manifest, and why I was able to remember previous lifetimes. It was all an explorative journey within the language to discover who I am. Intimate letters written to me, and that's the way I see it. So, thank you, Molech 12. I received that. I really appreciate that greatly. I've enjoyed everything that you have sent. I'm still trying to digest much of it before anything is brought forward on the channel, just because if I don't know it and I haven't experienced it and I haven't seen it, I really don't want to share it. So I appreciate you doing that, and I will check all that information out. I love you guys so much. I love when you join me here. This has been wonderful. Steve dropped a lot of amazing stuff. We will be talking about more and more of this information as we process it ourselves. And we are going to get into some scriptural verses, and we'll take a look at those words and be again to see a much bigger picture of the things that we have truly lost in translation. So thank you for joining me. Chadutha, may joy be made full and manifest in your life today as an absolute frequency that you live out. And Shalom Aleichem, may the peace of the complete understanding of who we are, grasping a hold of the power of Mother and Father, be made manifest in your flesh. Shalom, shalom.